I've been playing Path of Exile on and off for a year. A few leagues, I've got 4 Void Stones before, but not really attempted an Uber. This league, I got a Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice Occultist to level 100, farm T17 strong boxes to get easily over 500 raw divs, as well as having over 600 divs worth of gear. Beat all Ubers, yes, even including Uber Maven. I'll just show you quickly how I got there and how you can too. So just so you understand, I mainly focused on SSF in the past. This is the first Path of Exile 1 league where I focused on trade. So how I progressed. I created a Volcanic Fissure of Snaking league starter, which you can see here. I farmed around 150 to 200 divines. I then used this to create my Frost or Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice build. I did that through T17 strong boxes. It was a bit rough. You have to watch the T17 mods. I used a Headhunter belt. Again, that can be up and down, but it's fun. I also bought Defiance of Destiny amulet, which kept me alive enough to keep farming the strong boxes. Once I had the 150 to 200 divines, I then went ahead and created my build. Now, I'm just going to show you how I did that. So first of all, shout out to Palsteron. I followed his Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice build, including the Merc setup, and I'll go through. However, you'll see that I have a Mage Blood and some other things, and I'll talk through how I changed and how I crafted my gear and how I actually made the Mage Blood upgrade, etc. Keep in mind, if I just look at my gear here, that you don't have to have a Mage Blood to start, and I did not. I got this later. And also keep in mind that I crafted everything I possibly could, from non-unique gear to flasks to jewels, etc. And I didn't craft this ring, but I'll go through what I did craft and the basic methods and where you can go to for more info for each piece. In terms of helmet, unique ring, and gloves, and shield, I did exactly what Palstron said. I could not get the +1 max power charges implicit, corrupted. It was too expensive at the time. It's fine. Just get a normal one. I dropped a reflecting mist, which was worth like 35, 40 divines, whatever it was, and I used that to buy this helmet. In terms of the boots, don't be like me and buy the wrong boots. See the bottom line there, count as having maximum power charges is what you want. In terms of the shield as well, just make sure you follow that, and the ring, it's not rocket science. Palstrong will explain it all very well. Now, in terms of the amulet, without the amulet, you cannot have this build. I actually dropped 2. You don't necessarily need to buy it. In terms of the wand as well, I just did exactly what Palstron said. Now, in terms of rings, Palstron had a very expensive helical ring. I got away without this. I'll show you my jewels in a minute. I just crafted a lot of attributes onto my jewels. I bought this for about 4 divine. I just searched for any ring which had the certain amount of strength and dex that I needed, and this ring came up. The fact that the implicit is global critical strike chance was just perfect, and I just bought it right away because we are a crit build. Now, in terms of some of the other pieces, I mentioned I did crafting. So this chest I crafted. Now, this is a very good 20% quality chest. If you have a look, the actual energy shield at the top under quality is 299 of 302. I have T1 energy shield, and here it's at 110 of 110% and 98 of 100 flat. And the hybrid is also very high. Now, how I got this was through recombination. I had collected, I think I've still got some left, but a lot of bases I collected them, I put them on my loot filter, I had these bases, and I just alt-rolled them and recombinated. And I'd alt-roll them so like one would have flat and hybrid, and one would have percent and hybrid, and you just keep combining. Now, the good thing is I got a really good piece. It cost me nothing, because by that point in the game, I had done so many T17s, I had so much gold. As I go, I always disenchant reasonable uniques. So literally this chest, which is about 30D or so in the market, costs me absolutely nothing. Would I recommend you doing that? I would probably recommend you do that, sure, or you just buy a base with like 25% quality. Put the money in and use fossils to get the right modifiers. And shout out to Nick Siri. I used his video to craft the gloves, but he mentions using fossils as well. But look, I'm really happy with this chest, not an issue. My energy shield, it's 12,000. Gloves. Now these gloves, I crafted these gloves. These gloves I think are worth something like 300 to 500 to more divine, depending on, what you're gonna pay for them. If I get rid of, just have a quick look at the market here. Yeah, look, 200, 300 a mirror. However, these gloves probably cost me 30 divine. Shout out to Nick Ziri, Z-I-R-I. Go take a look at his video on how to craft these sort of gloves. I just followed that in my Twitch chat, helped me. And shout out to my Twitch chat, by the way, in general, always giving me good advice. This is a great set of gloves. I mean, really, you know, you crit and you got your speed. These are key to the build. Don't neglect that part. Look at my jewels. I mean, you buy the red nightmare. I crafted this. So how I crafted the big jewels, just use fossils. Use fossils. You can see the tag there is chaos. I just use fossils for chaos. And you get the 3 skills, and then hopefully you get another useful small passive, and that's what I got. Now there's a couple of these from memory. Yes, there are. There it is again, same thing. Got a bit of strength. Again, you want to try to get attributes on your jewels if you can. In terms of this jewel, crafted it again. I think I just outrolled this. It takes a bit of time and patience. Same with this, and you can see I got dexterity and all resists, and I got all attributes as well. I outrolled this jewel. That's quite hard to outroll like that. I got max energy shield and crit strike multiplier, and everything else like the block, and that was very useful for my stats. I outrolled. This is the second one. I just wanted to get a nice one with some dex and some all attributes as well. And in terms of, let's just have a look at some other jewels somewhere. Militant Faith, you can just buy that. This jewel is a really nice one. I bought, it's worth your time to, rather than outrolling these really well, you can just go and buy a fractured jewel. And when you buy a fracture, I mean, I'd always want to buy 12% global crit strike multiplier or 8% max energy shield. In fact, I like the energy shield one. I'll show you one in a second. This one, then I outrolled after that. But like for ones like this is my favorite jewel because it's got 8% energy shield. I did divine it after I rolled it. 12% global crit multiplier and 15 multiplier for spell damage. If you have a look, those are the top rolls. The mana doesn't really matter, but this kind of jewel is like 40 div. And I used, you know, I probably bought the base. You can buy these bases with the fracture for 10 div, but I bought it for like a few div, 50 to 200 divine. So I didn't pay that sort of money. You're better off, even if it costs you 8 divine for the energy shield fracture. What you do then is you can outroll, or if you want both crits, just go to the harvest bench, use a few divine on harvest for crit, and you can get both of those. It's not that common, it's not that easy, but you can get the both crit. Harvest can produce both of those crit rolls, and then I just use an exalt and I got mana, and it was fine regardless. So I'm happy with the top 3 there. This jewel is very expensive, and I'm pretty sure it was like 150 divines if I wanted to get rid of curses. You always need inflict withered. That's a granted. But I paid 50 divines or 40 instead of 140. Instead of being immune to curses, I just chose something else that was semi-useful to save 100 divines. And then I made sure in my flasks, that's why in one of my flasks, I've got 65% reduced effect of curses. And, you know, that'll scale up with effect. Later on in the build, I bought the Mage Blood. I then rolled these flasks. You want 25% increased effect on all, and then you just need to work out what you want. For this build, I went for chance to avoid being shocked. And the reason you do that is because one of the jewels, it's because modifiers to chance to avoid being shocked apply to all ailments. So if you do 54% chance to avoid being shocked, that's T1, your chance to avoid shock is actually 105 after it scales with all the other modifiers on the flasks, and therefore you've got over 100% chance to avoid all the ailments. I chose evasion rating. You could choose a lot of things here. Speed. I chose evasion rating for defenses, and then I made sure one of my flasks has onslaught right at the top there, which is, you know, increased attack, cast, and movement speed. That's huge. I chose regen 3% of life per second. The reason I chose regen 3% of life is I then went in and spec'd into this. Again, I'm level 100, so I had the points. Life regen applies to energy shield, which gives me nice regen. It then means Polstron's tree had this sort of approach where you need 4 points to spec into here. I just went and applied those 3 into spell crit, into crit chance and multiplier. And according to POB, that's really nice damage. So I'm really happy with the build. It really does kick ass. In terms of the Merc, I followed what Palstron said. Just have a look at his guide. Even for example on the amulet, kill enemies that have 15% or lower life there on the bottom if the Searing Exarch is dominant. And then you can see from the implicits, the Searing Exarch is grand, whereas Eater of Worlds is greater. So Searing Exarch is dominant. That is huge. You know, you're fighting uber bosses, you're fighting T17 bosses, and when they get to 15% of life, poof, they're gone. So yeah, really useful stuff. It's really important, the auras. I went for Despair, Envy, Zealotry. So some highlights and how powerful is the build. Well, I do T17s with ease. I roll every mod except a few, which are annoying. And, you know, sometimes I have to do multiple portals for the T17 boss fights, but sometimes not. They fall over easily. I beat every Uber in the game. I've never attempted an Uber before. A lot of them blind. It took me 2 goes to beat Uber Cirrus because I just ignored his mechanics, which you can't do totally. Maven, I had an idea of the mechanics because she's quite painful to beat even normally. And so, but I beat Uber Maven first time. I dropped other highlights. I dropped a Reflecting Mist, 30 to 40 divs. I then dropped a Hinakora's Lock. If you play enough, you'll do these things, 150 div. I made about 150 div on shipping to King's March with the $50 million shipments. And that's 25 million dust and crops. But I could have made much more. I actually was a bit unlucky there. Got a few mirror shards only in a couple shipments. I made 300 divs on a jewel that I dropped in Simulacrum. And that's another thing. This build can do Simulacrums with ease. Not even a hint of dying. What does the future hold for me? You know, 545 divines sitting here. I've got at least 600 divines. I mean, I've got over a mirror's worth. I've got a whole bunch of other stuff. I hit all the challenges I wanted this league. Was considering a trickster build. Would have to farm a lot more for a big trickster. I might also just take a break and focus on a bit of SSF for a challenge next league and do a bit of SSF and trade depending on what I want to achieve. Thank you for watching this video and sub if you can. Cheers.